Hey teachers, thank you so much for coming to my meeting today. This is very important. I'm going to be giving a little presentation about some things that you can apply to your own classroom to change the way students perceive other students in their learning, as well as their own abilities in their learning, because the beliefs about the way students think that they can learn actually changes the effectiveness of what you're teaching and what you're learning. So our theory is if we can change how students believe they're learning, we can change the amount and the density of what they're learning. So this is just going to be a little guide for everyone. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and listen to my presentation. So first things first, before we get into everything, I want everyone to kind of think about when they think of the ideal student, what the student is learning, how they view themselves, what we want a student to be like. I want everyone to just take a second and kind of think of some things. I jotted some ideas down, but everyone has, differences. So some things that I actually put down has to do with I want my students to have high levels of intrinsic motivation. And intrinsic motivation is when the student feels passionate in their own abilities and themselves, and they want to learn because they want to learn. And so this might look like, instead of, I'm gonna learn how to read a whole book so that I can get a gold star on my reading goal sheet, it would be, I want to learn how to read because I want to be able to read to my younger sibling. So it's like they have a goal, but it's their own personal goal, and it's not affected by the outside world. So it's not getting a material, it's not trying to earn something to get words of affirmation. We want students to learn because of their own passion for learning. So I think that is something that's a good ideal student. I would also want my students to have good self-determination, which means they have the abilities to set their own goals, and they know their own abilities, they know how to reach their goals, they want to be able to plan things by themselves. So it's not all me guiding everything, but I want my students to be able to know what they know what they don't know. Okay, here's my goal, how do I get there? And that's self-determination. And again, I would like to elaborate more on what a mastery and performance goals are. So a mastery goal has to do with that intrinsic motivation we just discussed. And so a mastery goal is wanting to learn things to improve someone's own skills. So again, you want to learn how to read so that you can improve your skills when reading to your sibling. That would be what a mastery goal is. It's more of you want to do it because you want to do it. You're not getting anything out of it. It's your own passion, your own drive, your own inner drive to want to learn, to want to improve your skills. While performance goal, I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's more like with standardized tests, we push these students to want to excel to reach the, let's say, SAT, perfect score is 1600. That would be a performance goal. So you're just doing it to kind of get that score to submit to colleges or, whatnot, or get, straight A's to get principal's list. It's not really that inner passion. It's more of they want to achieve these standards that school gives them. And then something I also would like my students to have is a growth mindset. And this has to do with more positive affirmations of themselves. So thinking, okay, I failed this, but because they have a growth mindset, I'm gonna get a tutor, I'm gonna go to office hours, I'm gonna go to study hall and work with my teacher because I know with hard work and hard work ethic, I can succeed. And so it's kind of giving those inner, again, intrinsic motivation, inner to themselves, I have the ability to succeed and I know I can if I do A, B, C, D. So I really would like my students to, instead of having a fixed mindset, which means when they fail, I just can't do it, I'm done, whatever, being able to have a growth mindset, not give up when you fail. And even when you succeed, I think when you have a growth mindset, it's not even, okay, I succeeded, now I'm done, whatever. When you think of you want to grow, you want to continue your knowledge. So just because, okay, I succeeded this one time, now I'm done for the rest of the year. No, you want to keep working. It's all just about working hard, wanting to learn, wanting to be there, and just having that growth mindset. to be able to reflect on things that you did wrong and things that we can improve on in the future. And I put something on here about stable and controllable attributions. And although this is not always applicable to a lot of students, I kind of wanted to discuss that a little bit. So when I say that, I mean I want students to have stability in their goals, which means that they don't change day to day. So it's not just like, okay, today I want to make sure I get all of my work done in class, right? So I don't have to take it home. We don't want that to just be a that day goal. When I say stability, I mean like that is what they want to do for the rest of the school year. Like it's a school year goal. Like every day I'm going to make sure I get all of my work done. And then when I say controllable, we want students to feel like they're in control of their own success, even of their own failures and of their own goals. So we want students to have, one, I think attainable goals. So like realistic goals in their own learning process, whether these are mastery or performance goals. We also want students to have stable goals, which means that they don't change day to day and that they're controllable. So they're in the student's control. And that doesn't mean it's all up to them. They can still have that dependency on resources like tutors and like their own teachers and even group work and other students. But we want them to feel like they're in control of their own success and of their own effort. So these are just some ideas of our own ideal students. So I just would like everyone to kind of keep what they're thinking and some ideas I jotted down in their mind while we're kind of going through what the presentation is about. Okay. When I say beliefs, I'm referring to the epistemological beliefs. And so there are 5 of these beliefs that apply to our school system. So we're going to go through them one at a time, but these are the 5 beliefs that we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about how you can identify these beliefs in the classroom. We can talk about some examples of what it might look like, and then of course how we as teachers can change this in the classroom. So we have fixed ability, we have click learning, we have certain knowledge, we have simple knowledge, and then we have omniscient authority. So let's keep the ideal student in mind as we're talking about these 5 beliefs. Okay. The importance of, again, why are we doing this? What is the point of this presentation? Why do we even care about what the student kind of believes? Like, what is that? It's all philosophical, right? So I just want to get into, by identifying what the student believes about their own abilities and about others, we can alter their performance levels. So I think I would like to use the example of the growth mindset. So if a student we notice just gives up every time they fail and they just don't want to try anymore, they stop coming to study hall hours, whatever it is, we can be like, okay, so they have a fixed mindset. What can we do? We can give them positive affirmation. We can say, here are some resources to help you get better, or you could go in, let's set some specific learning goals, performance goals, and then here are some resources and here are some extra practice I'm going to give you so that you can reach those goals. And so then performance levels increase. These beliefs also increase motivation. And so again, when the student there's negative and positive to all these beliefs. When the student has a positive side of these beliefs, they're more motivated to want to learn. And then these beliefs are also important because this is how our students are going to see the world, and this is how they're going to graduate school and go out into the workforce or go out into higher education and take in more knowledge, because knowledge just continues to build on each other. So we want our students to have open minds when they go out into the world. We want them to be able to take in different perspectives and have more of like an open mind, open heart, because knowledge is all about just understanding the world. And so there's not always going to be one right way. And so we want our students socially to be able to see other perspectives. And then also just when they're doing their own critical thinking, okay, this is one way I could do it, this is another way I could do it, just all about like strategizing and figuring out multiple ways to reach a solution. And so I think this is very important when it comes to figuring out how we can change these beliefs. And then also I would like to talk about our views and our own beliefs affect students' beliefs, because what we preach is what they listen to and what they take in and what, they're writing down and like really wiring in their brains. And so it's really important that we even talk about what these beliefs are to realize our own defaults, so that when we are teaching, we can catch ourselves when we're reinforcing one of these false beliefs. It'll make more sense, I think, as we're talking about them, but I kind of just wanted to go into why do we even care about what students believe about themselves. So the first one that we're going to talk about is fixed ability. And fixed ability is when students think, oh, some people are just born with natural gifts or natural talents. Like, I don't have it. It's innate, right? And so we've all heard, oh, I'm just not good at math. Like, that person is just really good at taking math tests, which is, it's not true. And the more we say these things to ourselves and the more we hear students say it, they really do begin to believe it. And so with fixed ability, we just have this idea that some people are just born more intelligent and, I can't do multiplication factors now. And so it's like I wasn't born with that gift and other people were. And so it's just as we need to be able to change that. And so this is fixed ability. And so that would be the negative side of it. The negative side of it is that I don't have this gift of doing multiplication factors. I just wasn't born with it. But then on the flip side, we need to think positively about this. It's learning to improve through practice. So we've all heard practice makes perfect, which, isn't always true, but practice can definitely help you improve your skills. I think that anybody has the ability to do whatever they want through hard work and dedication. So we just need to be able to, really to tell students that that is not true, and you're not born out, you don't come out of the womb doing multiplication or, learning to read. This is something that we learn, and as teachers, we need to promote to children. So this is kind of how you can identify fixed ability within the classroom. So you may notice some students giving up the second that they fail. So this may look like if you pass out some tests back and they're seeing their grades and a student realizes they didn't do so well, and then you guys are doing more work that day, they might just sit there. They might just be like, I'm not doing this, it's not worth it, like I'm not even gonna try anymore. You might see a decrease in grades after that. They might have studied very hard for that test, then they fail it, and then they just don't study at all because they're like, okay, what's the point? I'm just not good at it. So we need to be able to see that in the classroom. You may also hear just complaining, oh, I can't do it. Oh, why did they do so good? Like, I can't do it. I don't have the ability to do it. So just listening to conversations in the classroom is very important. I put on here not participating, and I do think this could apply for a few of them, but in this case, when I mean not participating, it's more after the fact that they fail. It goes with this giving up part. So just, I'm not even gonna ask my question because I probably won't even understand it anyways. I just don't have the ability to understand, so what's the point of me even participating is more what I mean with that. And again, you may hear this blaming others. Oh, they were born with this subject, they're good at this task, I'm not. It just is more of that, like them versus me. So let's talk about some ways that we as teachers can change this negative aspect of fixed ability. So ways that we can change it is we can encourage and tell students to keep practicing, keep going. So if we're talking about reading, they're not doing well on all these reading exams, okay, we need to have a one-on-one. Maybe there's something going on elsewhere, which, is a whole nother presentation. But if we're talking about these beliefs that the students have, if you have this one-on-one with the student and you're realizing, oh, it is fixed ability, then we have the ability to, hey, this is not the truth. You are fully capable as much as your neighbor is to be able to learn how to read. Let's sit down together. Let me give you some one-on-one tips. I think you just need some extra support. It's not that you just aren't born with these skills. So that's really important. And so with these one-on-ones, we would be showing the children these strategies that they can apply to their own lives to be able to reach these goals that they've set. Also, I put on here, because I actually had a teacher do this when I was really struggling with a biology assignment. I had this, I'm not good at biology. Like all these people that want to be doctors, it's their calling is what I said, that they can be doctors, they understand biology. I'm not supposed to do that because I wasn't born for that. And so she shared a relatable story where she actually was not good at biology growing up, and she failed it in high school, and now she's a biology teacher. And she was just telling me she had to sit down, she had to really read the textbook, she had to get and do like group study groups, like she was just sharing with me how she found her passion even though she failed. So this one is not always applicable, but just being able to kind of like share a relatable story of someone or yourself also feeling this way. Then the second belief that we have is quick learning. And so this is exactly what it sounds like. Quick learning, it means that learning happens quickly or not at all. They're like, okay, if I didn't pick it up this class period, then I'm just not gonna get it at all. And so the negative of this would be the student thinks that other students that pick it up fast, they're gonna be more successful. And the positive side of this would be that learning is gradual and takes time. And so I put a little vocab word here if everyone wants to jot this down. It's called incremental learning. And so the idea behind incremental learning is that learning cannot, like, if you teach something in one lesson, not everyone is going to get in that one lesson. It takes practice. It takes repetition. You might have to talk about it the next class period. It's this idea of incremental learning where you have to do things in sections and chunks for students to fully get it. Doing it all out at once does not work for everyone. Learning is a gradual process. So I kind of put that there. So again, just to kind of recap, quick learning, student thinks that other students that learn quickly are going to be more successful. So just because that student didn't pick it up right away, they're going to have this false belief that, again, they don't have that ability because they didn't pick it up right away. And so this is how you can identify quick learning in the classroom. So you may notice a student that has low self-esteem because other friends or other students in class are finishing things faster, turning them in. So you may just notice kind of slumping around, not having energy to go, do recess. Just kind of like you notice when someone kind of like, this, maybe laying their head down, just like that low self-esteem, just not showing a whole lot of confidence. Maybe their personality in general is changing. Maybe they're the class clown, whatever, and they're just kind of like losing kind of that confidence in like who they are because they're feeling this pressure because everyone else is like getting it. Everyone's turning their paper in. They're still sitting there on problem number 1. So that's something that you may see in the classroom. Also, students may experience some anxiety. So sweating, tapping, shortness of breath. This can go with like test anxiety. You may notice that. You may notice like leaving homeworks blank, and I would like to kind of specify what this means because this can go with a few different things. But in this example, like if you teach something that day and you kind of have to wrap it up fast and like the bell's gonna ring, whatever, then you have a homework assignment on it, you may notice that some students they're like, okay, I just didn't get it. Like they just leave it blank. So this could kind of go with a few of them, but I would like you guys to keep this in mind. If you do see some problems that are blank, whatever, it may just be because the student didn't get it that day. That lesson just wasn't clear to them. They need to hear it again, whatever it is. And then also with this complaining part, if you hear someone else saying, oh, everyone gets it, I'm stupid, like I'm not capable of this, like you spent an hour on it and I still didn't get it. Like I've totally said that before. So just like kind of listening to those little things, you can identify which belief it is. Okay, so here are some ways that we can change the negative aspect of quick learning. So just explaining to the students, learning is a gradual process. I feel like this is not something that's talked about amongst the staff. So being able to tell students, okay, this is a very complex topic, like we're going to be talking about all the parts of the cell. I don't expect you guys to get it all today. Just kind of making that clear. These are things that I think we assume students know, that they're not gonna be able to be a microbiologist after one day of plant life or whatever it is, but just making those statements clear. So they're like, okay, I get it, mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell, I can't take any more, whatever. It's the first time they're exposed to it, or even if they have been exposed to it before, they're in other classes too. They're not gonna maybe get everything that you say right away. So just kind of maybe saying that in class, making it this clear expectation, I think could be very helpful. Okay, this is another important one. So when you are doing tests, when you're doing exams, exit tickets, whatever it may be, not having okay, turn it in and then you can go back and read or work on other things while you wait for everyone else. Do not have that. Have, okay, everyone, we have 15 minutes to take this. Once you're done, just sit there, whatever, don't go turn in, and then go around and collect them all together. Because something that happens is a student finishes it in, like, let's say 5 minutes, they go up, they turn in, all their classmates are like, oh, I need to do it too, they got it, they must be smart, they must have gotten an A. There's rushing, it causes that anxiety, low self-esteem. So just being able to, okay, everyone, here's the timer on the board, I'm gonna come around and collect it after this time. So it doesn't cause that pressure of, oh, this person, this other student is very smart, I need to hurry up. And then also, I think this is very important, offering a lot of practice and group collaboration, because this allows students, because in a classroom, it's like that pressure. It's like when one student is always raising their hand because they always get it, there's just that pressure of, how did they already do that? We just learned it. So having group collaboration can, okay, did you get this? Like, how did you do this? I'm a little confused on what she just said. Like, being able to work together and be like, okay, I'm not alone in this, is very important. And then with homeworks, not grading every homework for accuracy. Because when you do that, it's like, okay, they just learned it that day. Like, they're not gonna get it 100% right away. So maybe teaching the lesson, they have a homework, but they can like work on it as what they know, you talk about it the next day, and then maybe you add some of those problems from the past homework onto the next homework. So it's like, okay, now we had another day to talk about, another day to review, another day to do group collaboration, then you can kind of look at it and grade it for more accuracy. But just not having everything for accuracy right off the bat, because it just is like unneeded pressure. So this is going to be our third belief. This is certain knowledge. And certain knowledge, it means that there's only one right answer. So this is going to be the negative side of it. So here I have my multiple choice. It's like, it's only A, it can't be B, right? So it's only having one strict answer. And, this can get a little iffy when it comes to maybe more like factual things like science, like math, especially math. But just kind of like hear me out with this one. So the negative side of certain knowledge is going to be, there's only one right answer, one right way to do it, one right way to approach the problem, whatever it may be. Positive is going to be more, okay, it can be up for interpretation. There can be multiple strategies to attack this problem. So just having that flip side of it. So negative, we're talking about negative part of certain knowledge. So students thinking that there's only one right answer. Okay, so this is how you're gonna identify the negative part of certain knowledge in the classroom. So students are gonna talk to each other, oh no, that's wrong, that's not right, whatever. You're gonna hear that. You're gonna hear other students, oh, that's not what my mom thinks, or that's not what she said, that's wrong. So then again, like saying your opinion is wrong, or the way you approach this problem is wrong. There's other ways that we can teach our students to have constructive feedback, and we'll get into that in a second, but you may hear that amongst your students. Again, with the not participating part, students, there are multiple reasons why a student might not participate, but one that I want you to keep in mind with this certain knowledge is that a student might not participate because they think that their answer is wrong. So even if it is an open-ended question there's some factors that influence the Civil War. I mean, yes, technically there's going to be a wrong answer, but at the same time, allowing students to kind of give their ideas, think more deeply, more critically about it, being able to kind of leave a few things up for interpretation, stuff with that, like being able to encourage students to raise their hand and participate, even if it might not be the exact answer they talked about in class, kind of being able to be open to different ideas. You may notice a student doesn't participate because they're afraid to get it wrong. Low scores on multiple choice or true or false. So when you have exams that are only really one answer because the key says it's A or the key says it's false, and you notice all these low scores, it might be this, there's only one right answer kind of false belief. And so again, it really does depend on the subject. We're just gonna talk broad here with maybe more English, social studies, and then maybe science, but just kind of keep this in mind still. This also might just be like with social things, like if students are in an argument, like the way that they approach it, there's not really a wrong way, there just could be a better way, right? So just kind of like in everyday life, keeping these beliefs in mind. Yeah, and then with group collaboration, if a student just has the inability to see this other perspective, they just are not getting along with the group are all jotting down all these ideas, and they're like, no, this is the way we're gonna do it, this is it, like they're gonna have this certain knowledge of like, there's only one way to do it. Okay, so these are some ways that we can change that negative aspect of certain knowledge. So we can have open-ended teaching, which means you don't maybe always wrap your lectures up with like, these are the key points, these are things you need to memorize. It's more of like, okay, so what do you guys think? What did you guys get out of this? Like kind of leaving it open to interpretation when you leave. Like they shouldn't leave confused. That's not what I'm saying, but they should leave being able to wonder things, being able to think of more abstract questions. So just kind of, being open to having this open-ended teaching, I think could be a really cool idea. You could test it out, see what you think. Having a brainstorming board is very important. So being able to, before you talk about a lesson, you maybe just put one word up on the board, on a whiteboard. And as students are coming into class, they can take a marker and kind of jot down some ideas that they might think. So use the Civil War example again. You put Civil War on the board, and then they might think of some things. So they might put up their, Confederates, or, Federal Confederates, slaves, North, South, like you could jot down some ideas before you kind of get into teaching so that their brains are kind of turning on, okay, what are some things we might talk about? What are some, a bunch of different ideas with this one subject, I think could be cool and important. Again, with the group activities, group collaboration, very, very important with teaching. Students learn from other students as well. They learn from their peers. So just having that group collaboration, being able to see other perspectives of children their age is an important part of being more open-minded and reducing that fixed mindset. And then having speakers with opposing views or teaching multiple ways of something. This, again, depends on like the rules and what you have that day and what like the regulations are. But if you are talking about stuff with politics, or if you are talking about a research experiment, being able to have guest speakers, or just being able to teach all of the different perspectives they might be, or different strategies to reach whatever the goal is, whatever the learning goal is, for students to see, okay, these are adults and they all think differently and they're all successful, and that's okay. Just having this open mind when it comes to certain learning is really what I want to get to with you guys. So those were the solutions that I kind of was thinking, but that one I think really does kind of depend on the student and the subject. Now we're on belief number 4, and this is simple knowledge. And simple knowledge is, this might sound a little broad, it's a series of isolated facts. And so what I mean with this is that students having this idea that we need to just focus on facts and instead of like theories and ideas and like maybes. And I would like to connect this to performance goals. So I think with this, it's more of like, they just want to know what they need to know to get an A on the test. So it's not about learning, it's about, okay, what are the facts? Just tell me what I need to know. I'll just regurgitate it on the test and move on and forget it. So with this one, I kind of want to focus on that part of it. It just is like, they need to know that knowledge interconnects in the world. You're not just going to need to know it for a test. It's going to be more of like, you need to know this from this subject and this from this subject, and it will all intertwine. And so you could think of this with like grammar and writing, and then maybe with, again, biology again. So there might just be like, okay, I need to learn where the commas go because I have this grammar test. When really it's like, okay, you need to learn how to write, and then you also need to memorize how a plant grows, right, to do well in those 2 exams, which are those performance goals that we discussed, but also kind of realizing in the future it's going to interconnect, right? You're going to have to do a biology report on something in the future. You're going to need to use those writing skills with biology. So just being able to, when these students have this false belief of simple knowledge, it's that, okay, we just need to know the facts. We don't need to focus on all these like theories, and like it's almost like wasting time really learning because our school system is just so corrupt on this, okay, memorize this, take this test, move on, when it should be knowledge like building on to each other, really being open to all these different perspectives and all these different theories. And so I kind of also put on here, Piaget would be the opposite. Like, he also thinks knowledge interconnects, so just kind of keep that in mind. So this is how you're going to identify simple knowledge in the classroom. So you may notice students being afraid to use skills in other classes in your own class. Like, I know I have definitely experienced this. Like, I, would learn how to outline a paper for history, and then I might be afraid to use those skills in like a psychology class because it's different, it's a separate subject. We can't structure things the same, whatever it is. So like, just being open with your students that, okay, I know you guys are taking other classes, feel free to use skills that you've learned in other places in my own classroom. I think that that's really important. And then I would like to go into more students' personal lives. If you notice that you don't know a lot about what your students do out of school, you don't know that kid David is really good at playing basketball, I think that all interconnects. So it's not just like, okay, he really needs to focus on this history project. How can we use that with basketball? How can we, it doesn't all just need to be all these facts. It can all interconnect. Also, the fact if school resources are not used in the classroom, I think that we need to use a lot of abstract things to learn. And so this might not just be technology, but if, the school library offers something where you can get with a librarian to discuss research, whatever it is, just taking advantage of all those opportunities. If there's a club that does like service trips where they go out in the community and they garden, whatever it is, maybe you could use that in science. Maybe you could be like, okay, we're going to do like a field trip or something and see in our own community how we can apply this knowledge. I think that that's very important as well. Yeah, students also approaching tasks just one direct way, the way that you did it, and they just copy exactly what you did. We want students to be able to apply what they know about their own learning styles to the classroom and knowing the way that they are good at things. And so by doing it a certain way, they might just be mimicking what you're doing and not really taking it in, not really learning. So here are some ways that we can actually change the negative aspect of simple knowledge. So we need to use skills that students already have to learn within the classroom. So this might be if a student is in the school talent show, you go to that, right? You see, oh, you're really good at guitar. How can we use that to maybe come up with a little song to memorize the parts of a cell? Whatever. Just realizing that, all these things that students know, all this different knowledge can be useful together. Also, what I said about maybe gardening and learning about plant life, implementing what students engage in their own environment within the classroom. This goes with instrumental learning as well. So instrumental learning is using environment within the classroom. So exposing students to what you're going to be talking about in that environment. So, this is going to be really abstract, but if you're learning about stars and astronomy, maybe do something where you decorate the classroom and put, all the planets up on the ceiling, or like paint some stars, whatever. It just make it more fun, be in the environment that you're going to be teaching about. And then the passion of students, this has to do with intrinsic motivation. So whatever they're passionate about, they're going to be the most driven with. So if you're able to connect their talents and their passions together into what you're teaching, that's how you're going to get the most beneficial learning, best results. And then also our final one, number 5, omnistic authority. So this is very prevalent, especially in our school. These students have this negative idea that the power is within the teachers and within their elders. So this idea is just that, like, with more power and more authority in whatever environment, are therefore they have more insight and they're smarter and more intelligent. Then the flip side of this is we want to encourage our students to be able to discover things without authority, be able to realize, they're capable of learning by themselves too, or they are capable of driving their own instructions to reach these goals. So it's this false belief that everyone in power and everyone in authority is super intelligent, super smart, which we know isn't true, but President. So how do we identify this false belief in the classroom? So you may hear that students don't feel confident giving you their perspective. So I think this also has to do with participating, but you may, when you're just having a one-on-one with a student, you're only here, it's almost like you're listening to a broken record of yourself. They're only going to say things that you've said, or they're not going to want to elaborate on their own perspective because they don't want to offend any, what you think, or you don't want to offend, I just didn't learn like that. I don't want to offend your teaching style. So just not being able to see their own individual perspectives, because we all have them. But if you're just hearing your perspective over and over again, you know that this belief in place in your own classroom. This one is very specific with that. Students writing to just please you. It's kind of like an open-ended question in like maybe psychology, being able to give students multiple examples and then having them like elaborate on just like one of them and how that applies to their own life is something that you could do. Like if a student's just writing to please you, like again, you're just kind of gonna hear what you've been preaching to the choir right back. Like you're gonna see the same word usage, like maybe they're just copying right off the lecture. There's not gonna be a whole lot of like creativity involved or different perspectives. It's kind of just gonna be what you've been saying. You might just notice the same verb usage. Yeah, maybe you don't hear like debates in class. Students are doing whatever. So while you're at your desk and you're not hearing during group discussions, everyone's just kind of agreeing on things, because then you have to share what you think. If they're all just agreeing on things because you said it, you might want to like differ that a little bit. Students should question things, and students should want to, okay, this is what she said about how life is formed. What are some things that I already know about how life is formed, and how can I maybe debate that a little bit? I mean, could be fun. I don't know. And then also, again, with the not participation, because they don't want to offend you, or they just think that they're wrong because, you're the teacher. Here are some ways that we can actually change this false belief. I think that this goes with constructive feedback. I think if you catch yourself constantly like criticizing or writing notes like that's wrong, like thinking, okay, this is my perspective. I know that they need to learn this, but I don't want them to think that, I'm just gonna be right on like all these different things. So being able to give constructive feedback, like, that's a really awesome idea. Just maybe elaborate more next time, but you're on a roll. So having that like compliment sandwich, it could be good. But when you're doing constructive feedback, I would like you guys to kind of write this down. These are some points that you need to keep in mind. The feedback needs to be very specific. So it can't just be great writing. It needs to be like, I really like this sentence. This sentence is definitely on point, but how can you expand this idea that you had in the sentence? It's very specific. The feedback also needs to be, it needs to have a rubric for improvement. So you can't just say, oh, this writing, like, it isn't good. I don't like this sentence. You need to have ideas on ways that they can change it and ways that they can progress. It needs to be individualized. This is very mega important. So you can't just say, if everyone wrote the same thing, whatever, You cannot just give the same feedback to everyone. You need to really read theirs. You need to give individualized feedback. It needs to be very specific to that individualized student. Maybe you know something about their own experience. Maybe you know things that they're passionate about. Using that in your feedback is very important. It needs to be timely. So this means if they do write a paper, you're not giving it to them 3 weeks later. Like, this is something that it's gonna be like within that week. Like, you need to give a time frame of when they're getting stuff back, and like, because they're just gonna forget it. They have other classes, you know, you're teaching other things. So just making sure your constructive feedback is timely is very important. Okay, and then we're gonna talk about the other ways that we can change this false belief. We need to allow students to lead their own conversations and group discussions. So not just going around and like listening and being like, oh, say this, or like really allowing students to kind of do their own thing when it comes to group discussions. Like, we want them to lead even class discussions. Like, it shouldn't be you just lecturing the whole time and calling on the same student and like saying, you know, your spiel that they are just gonna regurgitate over and over again. It should be like, I'm really confused on why you're saying we, you know, stuff with like maybe primates or whatever you're teaching in science. Like, I'm confused on how this transition happens. Like, what do you guys think about this? You know, having those different views, having whatever, like, you don't need to be always guiding and leading the conversation. Like, having those debates, sitting in a circle, having that seminar discussion, and allowing students to kind of lead their own things. Okay, and again, with this group discussion, we want to allow some students to answer other people's questions. So it shouldn't always be you constantly answering every single question. I see rules in classrooms that it's like 3 before me. So asking 3 peers, whatever the question is, before you go to the teacher. This allows different perspectives, and it allows just peer-on-peer teaching is just very effective, because that's just how children learn and they grow. It's like imitating other peers. And then also, this actually helps with the positive aspect of it, is like, I have the ability to learn, I can use the resources. Having that access to technology. Don't get how to do a functional equation, being able to look that up on Khan Academy on YouTube. Being able, oh, I can teach myself in other ways. I can read the textbook. I can, you know, use these resources. I can really strategize, and it doesn't always have to be the teacher to be able to succeed. So having that access to technology to show students that they can teach, not always teach themselves, but get that extra support when they're struggling. So those are the 5 beliefs. I know I just spit a lot out at you guys, but I would like to give some positive affirmation that we got this. You know, these students really look up to us, and we have the ability to change the way they view the world and change the way they think. They think about us, they think about other students, they think about themselves, whatever it may be. And this doesn't just apply to school subjects. They can take this into clubs, they can take sports, even at home, conflicts in life. These beliefs are really important that we expose our students to, that we understand ourselves, because I would like to say again, our beliefs affects our students' beliefs. So I just would like to give some positive affirmation that everyone here is a great teacher. You're doing an amazing job. I just kind of wanted to bring this up, but please, please, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm always here to answer them, but just, you know, you got it. You're doing a great job, and just keep up the great work, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and learning about the 5 beliefs. Bye.